Hello, and welcome back to another Flashback review. This is J77, and I'm doing it in audio form. And just to give you guys a heads up, I may be doing most of my reviews, both new and old, in audio form for the time being. Some will be at live video vlogs, but for now, I'm just trying this new style of reviewing to see if it works better. Your feedback pretty much will determine whether I should stick with this style or just go back to the other style. But for me, the reason why I'm doing it as an audio rather than video with images, I feel I'm better off speaking my mind without being too nervous or repeating myself. With that being said, let's get on with the holiday edition of Flashback Review, where from now till the end of January, I'll be talking about some holiday movies that I like and didn't like. And what better way to start off my holiday reviews than Home Alone Part 3? Oh my. You know, last year I covered the first two Home Alone films. I actually did. I gave my likes and dislikes, my feelings on Macaulay Culkin as an actor, as well as his performance in the first two Home Alone movies. And they're good movies. I actually like the first one. I really do. I enjoyed them. The second one, not so much, but the gadgets alone and the jokes and the pranks he was pulling was still enough to give it a not bad but could have been better review. Um, and I was just gonna leave it at one and two. I really was. I thought about it long and hard about reviewing three and four, and I was this close to skipping over those two films and just talk about the other holiday films that came after that. Um, one of my one of the reasons why I was going to not review it is because the Nostalgia Critic have talked about Home Alone 3, and there was some stuff I agreed and disagreed with, but overall he covered some of the stuff that I think a lot of people had a problem with the third installment of Home Alone, and Shameful Sequels had covered the fourth one, and I said, well, they already covered some of the stuff that was wrong with these two films, so there's really no need for me to cover these films any further. And then there is Home Alone 5, which is coming out later on this holiday season on the Family Channel, ABC Family. And the moment I heard that, the moment I actually did a review on this, which was not very pleasant at all, I decided, what the hell? Just talk about these two films. Give a more retrospective of why these films didn't work. More so than just doing a review, and you can pretty much understand, from at least from a fan and a moviegoer perspective, why the last two films didn't work. It didn't work for the fans, didn't work for the studios, and it damn sure didn't work for those who were huge hardcore fans of the first two films. I might as well touch on the first two films quickly, and what made those films work. Home Alone was a surprise hit. It was a surprise mega hit. It starred Macaulay Culkin, a kid who many people recognize from Uncle Buck. He pretty much was left alone in the house after he thought he wished his family they would disappear. Of course, his family was in a rush to get to the airport, and in that rush, they forgot they left their son in the attic. Um, Antics ensues. He's alone now. At first he's happy, and then boom, he realized that he actually missed his family. He learns to pretty much defend for himself until they come back. But at the same time, he is also defending the house from two burglars, which is called the Water Bandits, Daniel Stern and of course Joe Pesci. You have Harry and Marv. And in the course of the film, he's basically defending the house by putting up gadgets and pretty much tricking them into believing someone's in the house, but in reality it's not. In the end, with that formula, along with a pretty impressive storyline, you had a mega hit that lasted almost a whole entire year. This film came out in November and didn't start fading away into theaters until April. That's how strong this film was. That's how powerful this film had against people, because word of mouth, I've got everybody to see this film again and again and again. With that being said, it was the strength and the weakness. And I say weakness because this film really wasn't sequel bait material. There really wasn't nothing else they can actually tell the story. And to be honest, I don't think the studios who released the film didn't think this was going to be this big of a hit. They didn't expect this film to blow up like this, like it did. It was in the block. It was in number one for almost 15 straight weeks, and counting. That's how big this film was. It wasn't like a, 4 weeks and done. This was week after week, month after month in first place, and it really says a lot about this movie, and also says a lot about what was being released at that time. In all, this was really never was a sequel material. There was really never an open door. It was a one and done film. About a year later, there was an announcement that Home Alone 2 Lost in New York was being filmed. It was being filmed in New York. There was high expectation for this film, and the film was finally released. Critics were very harsh on this film. Fans, some loved it, especially younger fans. Older audience didn't really care too much about it. I myself already said it was pretty much rehashing the same thing that the first one did, and it really was nothing original. The bird lady, really? You're gonna put a bird lady in this film? Then we had enough with the shovel guy. But in any case, what actually helped this film was A. Macaulay Culkin's performance, and two, the gadgets, which was still awesome. I actually enjoyed the film just for the gadgets and the pranks, and for the most part, it was a an enjoyment for the holiday season. Loved the soundtrack. I thought the soundtrack was the best soundtrack I've heard, a best holiday soundtrack I heard all in a long, long time. And if anything else, you should check out at least this one song alone on Christmas. It was fresh, it was original, and I recommend that you find it on iTunes because it's a very, very good song. With that being said, there was already talk of a Home Alone 3 while that film was being played in theaters. They wanted to bring Macaulay Culkin back. And what ended up happening was that the film did not get a great reception, and after the first week, the film just saw a huge drop. I mean, word of mouth got around, and it wasn't good. The audience reaction wasn't good, the critics wasn't good, and it wasn't making anywhere close to the money this movie has gotten. So the producers pretty much backed away of immediately producing a sequel to Home Alone 2. Another reason is Macaulay Culkin was already at his peak, and he was already signed to make other films right after Home Alone 2. So pretty much the film was in the shelf with no script at the time, and it wasn't until a few years later that Home Alone 3 came to be. Home Alone 3, however, had another problem. Again, they wanted Macaulay Culkin back, but now Macaulay Culkin is older, and he hasn't had a hit ever since Home Alone 2. I mean, he had flop after flop, from Getting Even with Dad to Pagemaster, to The Good Son, which I thought was one of his other better films, to Richie Rich, to the awesomely boring Nutcracker. He did not have a strong box office performance, and add that plus the problems with his family, with their divorce and money handling dispute, it left a lot of people just wondering what the hell is going on, how are they going to promote Home Alone 3. In the end, he outgrown his character, and it left Home Alone 3 in limbo. Well, right after that, in the mid 90s, there was an announcement that they indeed was planning to do a Home Alone 3, but with a different kid, a different storyline that was separate to their own, and just basically take off from there. The film was released, of course, and surprisingly, despite many people's gripe on Home Alone 3, it did have a fairly decent review. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. And I will confess, this is my guilty pleasure movie. I don't mind watching this film over and over again. It's not a terrible film. Is it what you expect to see from the Home Alone franchise? No. But there's another reason to that, and I'll explain to that, and I'll start with the overall premise of the story. Home Alone 3 starts out in Hong Kong. It starts out with these three mercenaries for hire meeting with the triad leader, wanting to steal a microchip. Now, this microchip is very important because it can control rockets without being stopped by any other opposition. And so they end up getting this rocket from some dude we never even heard about. And he plain explained that once this was in a rocket, nothing can stop it. They paid him the money, took the rocket, put it in a toy car, and they're heading towards the airport. However, during that course of checking in with security, everything else, their bag got switched from another person who had happened to have the same bag. Now they're scrambling, trying to find the bag, and they realize the bag is nowhere in the terminal. So they board a plane to Chicago, thinking from the head leader, Dupre, that it may be in the plane. So they take the plane to Chicago, meet up in Chicago, and they realize they found their toy car, which an old lady has. She's heading to the cab, and with using the technology that they have, they tracked down what the cab she was got in, and they tracked down what neighborhood it in. The cab driver told them it's in this neighborhood. I don't know the address, but it's one of those areas that haven't been shoveled. So that's how that premises got started. That's how they end up in the Chicago urban areas. Right there is where the film started to go downhill in terms of convincing people that these people were supposed to get outsmarted by a child. And this is where I have to compare the first two movies to this. And I don't want to compare, but I have to, so that we can give an understanding of why this movie really didn't work. This premises really didn't work for this movie. Marv and Harry from the first two Home Alones were dumb criminals. I mean, yeah, you had Harry. He was a little bit more of the kind who had the plan, but make no mistake about it, there was dumb criminals. What they did was stupid. How they got caught was stupid. How the cops figured who they were because they leave trails behind was stupid. How they revealed their plans. They was just dumb criminals, and you can actually throw suspension of belief out the window because we actually don't know in real life we have dumb criminals. We read them in the newspaper, we see them in the news, or they made a TV series once about them, world's dumbest criminals. So we know dumb criminals can do stupid stuff like that. What Marv and Harry does. You're asking the audience, young and old, to believe that three mercenaries who were specially trained in dangerous arms and technology to be outsmarted by a 6-year-old. That's not going to fly well with a lot of people. And that was where this whole thing. And there were three of them. One girl, two guys. That just wasn't going to happen. That just wasn't going to fly. Right there, I really was like, okay, they really got to convince me they got outsmarted by the kid, which sadly they didn't, and that was the main issue from start to finish with the film. Let's talk about the main antagonist, Alex, which I'm gonna tell you right now. I didn't have a problem with the kid. I thought the kid was fine. I thought he was good. He was just a regular kid. He wasn't overacting, he wasn't underacting. His performance was pretty much what you come to expect from that type of film. Apparently, he had the chicken pox, which forced him to stay home alone. He was technically being watched by his next door neighbor who has a problem with him because he didn't shovel the snow on time, and she basically gave him the toy car. But pretty much he got sick and he couldn't go to school. He couldn't really much do anything but stay in the bed, and that pretty much forced him to get into a little bit of mischief, being nosy, posting pranks on his neighbors. But overall, it wasn't a bad performance. He was actually pretty good in the film. I think he was actually the better in the film. Scarlett Johansson, who was in this film just to be in this film, I can't really say much about her because she really didn't do much of anything, just being the big sister who picks on him. We had the big brother who I think was supposed to be the stand-in for Buzz, and you have the parents who pretty much was workaholic. You had the father who was pretty much out the picture for most of this film. He was always going on business trips out the state. So it was just basically the mother, Alex, and pretty much the criminals. What happened was the mother had a very important phone call. If you actually know, she went to the office pretty much to deal with that situation, even though she wasn't happy that the boss had forced her to go there. This led to Alex just basically looking around the neighborhood. He saw a couple of people that automatically looked suspicious, and he saw one of the head criminals in the house, in the room, and instincts tells you call the cops, which he did. He didn't go over there and try and stop himself. He went and called the cops. Of course, this pretty much alerted the criminals. They got out the way quickly, and of course, because they didn't see nobody there, they pretty much didn't believe the kid. This happened twice. The third time, he took matters into his own hands, using the car that he gotten from Mrs. Hess. That's the next door neighbor. To basically get proof that these criminals are doing is going to people's houses searching for something. Which, by the way, he doesn't know what it is yet. He didn't put the pieces together yet, but he knows they're looking for something. And this led to a scene that being almost tripping on each other, chasing this toy car all around the neighborhood. They literally chasing this car all around the neighborhood. And this led eventually to them realizing that they're being watched. That's one. And two, that led to them tracking down who it was. They finally found out who it was. The kid knows that he knows. He tried to tell his family, still doesn't believe them, and this led for him to basically set the traps. And this is where, in one hand, it was somewhat entertaining, but the other hand, it was so underwhelming. And that was the traps. The traps was way too calculated. They had to be complete idiots to actually fall for these traps, and there's no way they should have fallen for these traps. Every time I look at that film, the more I look at it, I say, yeah, you guys really, it was well coordinated plan that you guys actually fall for these traps. There's no way a trained mercenary like these guys would have fallen for these type of traps, but they did, and this led to pretty much a dark finale of the kid being, trying to scare the kid with a gun, which he actually which was Switch. It was actually a toy gun, and this led to him getting caught by the parrot, which set off the firecrackers, which ended with them all getting chickenpox, getting their mugshot taken, and you heard a song called "This Is My Town" being played in the ending credits. I think I did that enough brief for this review, but might as well get to my good points and bad points. Now, I said again, this is my guilty pleasure film. I don't have a big gripe with this film. I don't think it's the worst. Trust me, the one I'm going to be reviewing next is the absolute worst, and that's for a lot of reasons. And it's not even because it's a made-for-TV movie, but for this film, it wasn't good for the simple fact of villains. No one. I tried to suspend my belief that these villains are that stupid, but come on now. This made me want Marv and Harry back. At least with Marv and Harry back, there was convincing dumb criminals. Again, these were mercenaries. These are supposed to be smart, intelligent people, and they showed that in the beginning of the film how smart and advanced these mercenaries are. And for them to get beaten by a kid the way they did in such unconvincing fashion, may I ask, was just basically something that no one really much no one was buying. Even the young audience wasn't buying, and that was the biggest issue there. Other than that, the music, what can I say? It's not John Williams, but it wasn't not that bad of a distraction. I think the problem is that they was more upset with the parents not believing him and continuing to leave this kid alone again, even though technically speaking new laws was passed preventing a kid at a certain age to be left alone home alone in the house because of the movie Home Alone, ironically. But whatever. It was just it just was an underwhelming film, and I think that one of the things that helped the first two films the most hurt this film, and this one, was the gadgets. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't nothing special. If Macaulay Culkin was his next door neighbor, he was like, say, really, man, come on, step aside. Let me show you how this done. Let me show you how to put this hammer up in this wall. Let me show you how to, how to put the nails on the steps. You got to be more inventive, be aggressive, and that's the main thing. This film was not aggressive because they actually toned it down for a younger audience. And I don't think that was a wise choice. I mean, the first two films, yeah, it was pretty much out there with the way he got them trapped and how he submitted torturous pain with them in the first two films. But we all know that was coming. It was still a fun film. I mean, this one is like, well, I think my 5-year-old will like it. I don't know. It was nothing something that I can laugh out loud hard to. None of the gadgets got that reaction that the first two did. The second one got a reaction with me, especially with how Harry was getting manhandled in the second film. Marv was getting man. I'm sorry. It was yeah, it was Marv getting manhandled in the second film. Harry was getting manhandled in the first film. But either way, their how they established the traps in those films, and it worked, and it draw great laughs. If anybody will tell you, the film will be remembered the most for the gadgets, for the traps, and nothing really else. You may remember a few scenes here and there, but everybody's going to remember the traps. There's really nothing really memorable about the third film's traps. It was just, it was there. That was cute, but that's it. And that was the big issue with this film. Again, I think for young audience, I think it will work just fine. But as for older audiences, just was nothing there for them, and that was the main thing. As you get older, you realize there's really nothing there for the older audiences. And at least with the first two, there was something there for everyone to enjoy, and it really wasn't in this film. However, with that being said, did I thought the acting was terrible? No, I thought the kid was fine. I thought he was okay for what it's worth. I thought he did exactly what he supposed to do, and he did it well. And I thought the pacing was surprisingly very good. I thought the pacing, I wasn't bored by the film. I didn't fall asleep with the movie. I thought the pacing was fine. The music, I really had no complaint about. The overall story is pretty much weak because the way that the premises was set up, and unfortunately it pretty much filtered down to anything else in this film. But as a children's film, I thought it was harmless. It works fine as a children's film. As a children's film, I gave it a split rating of 3 stars. For the general audience, it's 2 stars. I think that the general audience will not oblige to this film. I just think that they will expect something bigger, something better, and it was toned down just to meet a certain demographic. And if that's the way it is, that's fine. For a kids' film, so be it. But for anybody else, it just was a major disappointment. Another thing about this film is this is not a Christmas film. Yeah, it came out during the Christmas holiday, but it's more of a family film than a Christmas film. So, Christmas is rarely mentioned in this movie. I almost forgot it was a Christmas, Christmas was in this movie. It was mentioned in the beginning, mentioned in the end, nothing in between. That's a long gap between the beginning and end. So, that was something that was very interesting. But in terms of this movie, yeah, it's not a good film if you're looking to get a broader audience. It's okay for the children audience. I don't think they enjoy more than anybody else. But for those who are big time fans of the first two films, they're just not gonna like this film at all. They're just not. But like I said, I thought 4 was worse, and trust me when I say I thought 4 was way worse. This film, I pretty much knew what they was gunning for. It's not horrible. It didn't make my worst list. I understand it did for a lot of people. That's understandable. But to me, if I gotta be fair and be honest with you, this is a good, decent kids film. It's something you can put in your 5-year-old. You're not worried about them trying these kind of stupid things on you and fear that it works. It's harmless in that regard. But but for a fan, yeah, I expected more from this movie than I got, and I didn't get much. So split rating 3 for kids only. For those audience, again, it's harmless. I think they'll enjoy more than the overall diehard fans. 2, it does have its moments for me. It is a guilty pleasure film. I don't mind popping it in. This is for my nieces and nephews and sit down with them. It won't kill me. Overall rating, I'm gonna give it 2 stars. Again, to me, this is not the lowest point of the Home Alone franchise. The lowest point is what I'm going to be viewed next. and batten down the hatches. There's a lot to talk about this film. So, with that being said, it's J77. I'll wait for you guys' opinion. If you agree, disagree with me, let me know in the comment sections. Until then, it's J77 saying take care, be safe, talk to you soon.